On my birthday, my wife Samantha decided to throw what can only be described as the world's most brutal surprise party, with her entire family gathered just so she could hand me divorce papers. "Surprise! I'm leaving you for someone who's not a disappointment," she announced, loud and proud. Her dad actually burst into laughter and added, "We never thought she'd actually go through with marrying someone so beneath her." They were literally holding champagne glasses, ready to toast to my misery. But instead of giving them the emotional meltdown they were clearly banking on, I kept it cool. I smiled, signed the papers without saying a word, and walked out the door. Fast forward 6 months, and now she's parked outside my house, sleeping in her car, sending me frantic texts begging to talk. If you told me a year ago I'd be writing something like this, I'd have laughed in your face. Part of me still thinks it sounds made up, but here we are. And just a heads up, this story isn't short. So yeah, I turned 34 last Saturday. Not exactly a milestone, but Julie, my wife Samantha, or soon-to-be ex, kept telling me she had something special planned. She was unusually excited all week, constantly glued to her phone, smiling to herself, acting super secretive. Naturally, I assumed maybe she was organizing a surprise party or something thoughtful, especially considering how strained things had been between us. Not yelling and slamming doors tense, but that slow, suffocating silence that creeps in when things are falling apart. We'd been married 6 years. Met in college. She was a beautiful business major with a rich family. I was the broke scholarship guy juggling 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. You know the story. Her parents never really accepted me. Her dad, Harold, seriously like a villain from an old action movie, would throw passive-aggressive jabs about my background during every holiday dinner. Her mom wasn't much better, always asking how that little job of yours was going, even when I'd been promoted to team lead. And then there were Julie's social media posts, always showing off our apartment like we were some noble struggle couple. It wasn't luxury, sure, but it was the best we could manage while I pulled extra hours to save for a house. She'd post captions about embracing simplicity, making it sound like we were living in hardship, while constantly comparing our life to her cousin Lena's, who, of course, married some hedge fund guy and lives in a mansion with a wine cellar bigger than our entire apartment. Over the last few months, Julie had been spending more time at her parents' house and coming home late from work events, usually smelling like a men's fragrance that definitely wasn't mine. She'd get these texts that made her smile in a way I hadn't seen in ages. I'm not stupid. I knew something was up. Still, I kept thinking maybe if I just worked harder, landed that next promotion, things would go back to how they were. Which brings us to my birthday. I got home from work. Yes, I worked on my birthday because adulthood is relentless, and found the apartment empty. Julie had texted me to meet her at her parents' place for a surprise. Weird, considering that house was the last place I'd want to celebrate anything. But fine, I figured maybe she was trying to make peace between us all. I drove to their giant Maple Hollow subdivision, and Julie met me at the door with this forced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Inside, the living room was packed. Her parents, her sister Erin, a few cousins, even some family friends I vaguely recognized, all holding champagne glasses. As I walked in, the room went uncomfortably quiet. Julie said, "Ethan, we have something special planned for your birthday this year." Her dad let out a snicker, not a laugh, a cartoon villain snicker. I stood there like an idiot thinking maybe, stupidly, they'd gotten me a car or something extravagant. That's when Julie pulled out a manila envelope from behind her back. For half a second, I wondered if it was plane tickets. Then she hit me with it. "Surprise. I'm leaving you for someone who isn't a disappointment." The room went dead silent, except for her dad, who broke out in full-on laughter. I just stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of what the hell was going on. Then her dad, ever the supportive role model, chimed in. "We never thought she'd actually marry someone so beneath her. Glad she came to her senses." Julie shoved the envelope into my hands. Divorce papers, already filled out and just waiting for my signature. Her mom popped the champagne and started pouring glasses like they were celebrating some career milestone. I don't know what reaction they expected from me. Maybe for me to break down, beg her not to go, 'cause a scene? But instead, Something inside me just switched off. I looked around at all their smug faces, at the woman I'd once imagined growing old with, and I felt nothing. It was like I was watching a play and I wasn't even in it. I asked Julie for a pen. Her expression flickered. That wasn't the response she was hoping for. Her dad, ever helpful, handed me his overpriced Carrington. I walked to their pristine marble kitchen counter, laid the papers out, and signed every single line without saying a word. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were my pen scratching and someone awkwardly clearing their throat. When I finished, I looked Julie straight in the eye and said, "Thanks for the birthday present. Best one yet." Then I walked out. No yelling, no slamming doors. Just walked away while they stood there stunned. Their confused faces when I didn't fall apart almost made the whole circus worth it. I got in my car and drove, no destination in mind, until I landed at the Rusty Tap where nobody knew my name. I ordered a whiskey. Then another. I stared at my phone as Julie's messages started coming in. "Why didn't you say anything? Are you seriously not going to fight for us? You're just proving my point by running away." By the third drink, the numbness faded and a cold fury started to rise. Not the reckless kind, the kind that sharpens your focus. The kind that makes you want to dismantle someone's life with precision. What Julie and her family didn't realize is that 6 years married to a woman from that kind of family teaches you a lot. You hear things. You see things. Like the family accountant who drinks too much and talks too freely about creative finances. Or the cousin who's secretly sleeping with her sister's husband. Or dear old Harold's client site visits that had nothing to do with business. So I did 3 things that night. 1. Called my buddy Calvin, a divorce lawyer with a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. 2. Started screenshotting every sketchy message and text I could find on our shared cloud. And 3. Made a list of every friend and business contact who needed to hear my side of the story before she could twist it. I didn't go home. I crashed at a friend's place. Woke up to a phone full of Julie's messages. The tone had changed. Less smug, more panicked. She clearly expected me to crawl back and beg for a second chance. Instead, by noon the next day, Calvin had filed the counter paperwork. I'd pulled my half of the money from our joint accounts, left hers untouched, I'm not an idiot, and rented a safekeep storage to move out everything that mattered to me while she was busy having brunch with her family, probably laughing about how crushed I must be. It's been a week. I'm staying at an Airbnb while I figure out my next move. Julie's been cycling through smug, confused, furious, and now full-blown desperation. Her last text read, "This isn't how this was supposed to go." No kidding, Julie. None of this was. Calvin says I'm in a better position than she expected. No kids, thankfully. My name's on most of our major assets. And let's not forget the solid proof of her affair with Derek, her coworker. The irony of her calling me a disappointment while sneaking around with him? Chef's kiss. That's where things stand now. I'm not done, not by a long shot. Her family treated me like garbage for years. Threw a party to celebrate the end of our marriage. They have no clue what's coming for them. Ever gone through something like this, that public, that humiliating? How did you deal with it? Because right now, I'm stuck between taking the high road and going full scorched earth. And honestly, the fire's looking pretty inviting. The affair was our secret weapon. Julie's family had always played the role of moral royalty, pillars of the community, always dressed to the nines, full of wise quotes and polished smiles. Her dad, Harold, practically lives on CareerLink, posting sermons about ethics and family values like he's running for office. So the idea of their Golden Girls affair going public during the divorce? Yeah, suddenly they were shockingly open to Calvin's proposals. One odd moment came when I was finishing up the move, just grabbing the last of my stuff from our old apartment. Julie showed up unannounced. First time I'd seen her since the birthday ambush. She looked different. Hair in a messy bun, no makeup, wearing sweatpants, the same woman who once ironed her jeans before brunch. She launched into this whole monologue about how she'd made a mistake, that Derek wasn't what she thought, and maybe, just maybe, we could talk about a second chance. I walked right past her, box in hand, and told her that if she had anything to say, my lawyer would be happy to hear it. The look on her face, like she couldn't believe I wasn't crumbling at her feet, was almost comedic. So, where are we now? The divorce is nearly wrapped. No alimony, thanks to some very compelling evidence. We're selling the apartment and splitting the proceeds. I let her keep most of the furniture. Figured I'd rather start clean anyway. I've reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Friends she never liked. Jared, for example, the guy she called a bad influence just because he brought $6 wine to dinner once. Turns out Jared's still great. We do weekly game nights now. And remember that furniture thing Julie used to mock? The tacky little hobby, as she called it? Well, I leaned into it, started refurbishing vintage pieces and selling them online. Nothing major, but I made my first Artnest sale last week. After expenses, the profit was only $27, but it felt like $1,000,000. Now here's where it gets interesting. Julie's family business, some luxury real estate venture, hit a snag. Their flagship project lost its main investor. Total coincidence that I had lunch with an old college buddy who now works at the investment firm that pulled out. Did I mention anything about Julie's family? Not at all. Did I accept his career link connection afterward? You bet. Julie's sister Erin, probably the only member of that family with a soul, reached out. She told me Julie's been a mess. Derek dumped her after her dad tried to fast-track him into the company. Apparently, Derek was only ever in it for the connections. Color me shocked. Julie's Instagram, once a stream of hashtags and perfect poses, has gone completely dark. Meanwhile, I've been posting simple updates, hiking trips, new furniture pieces, hanging with friends. Nothing performative, just life. I know they're watching. Her best friend liked one of my photos at 2 a.m., then unliked it immediately. Busted. Last night would have been our anniversary. I was out on the balcony, scrolling through Twitter, just feeling okay. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Julie. I know you probably hate me, but I can't stop thinking about where we'd be if I hadn't ruined everything. I miss your dumb jokes and how you always made coffee for both of us, even when we were mad. The apartment feels so empty now. Derek was a mistake. My family was wrong. I was wrong. Please, can we just talk? I'm not above begging at this point. I stared at it for an hour, typed and deleted about 15 different replies. In the end, I just put the phone down and went to bed. 3 months ago, that message would have broken me, in a good way. I would have run to her, no questions asked. But now, I don't even know what I want from her. The anger's still there, but it's quieter now. Duller. Then this morning, I woke up to 5 more texts, each one more frantic than the last. The final one said, I'm parked outside. Please come down. I looked out the window. Sure enough, there was her white Audi in the visitor lot. She was just sitting there, staring up at my building. I closed the blinds and made coffee. What would you have done? Part of me was tempted to go down there, hear her out. But another part of me, probably the part that's been rebuilding this new version of myself, knew better. And I'll admit, there's a small, vindictive corner of my heart that wanted her to feel what I felt that night her whole family toasted to my misery. Life is funny like that. 6 months ago, I thought everything was crashing down. Now I'm kind of excited about what's ahead. Final update, I guess. I moved out of the rental and into a real house. Nothing glamorous, just a cozy 3-bedroom in a nice enough neighborhood. I've even got a yard, thinking of getting a dog soon. The divorce was finalized 2 months ago. Barely a whisper from her side once Calvin brought the receipts. Her dad's hotshot attorney folded like origami. The furniture gig? Still going strong. I've even got repeat customers now. People who actually ask for my style. Funny, considering Julie once called it garage sale garbage. Now that garbage pays for my coffee habit and binge-based subscription. It's not the life I thought I'd be living, but honestly, it's starting to feel like mine. Anyway, it was a pretty standard Thursday night. I'd ordered pizza, curled up on the couch, and was halfway through binging that overhyped binge-based series everyone's been raving about. It's fine. Honestly kind of mid, but I'm already too far in to quit now. Then, around 11:30, I got a Ring doorbell alert. I figured it was probably some neighbor stumbling home after too many drinks, maybe mistaking my place for theirs again. But when I checked the camera, there it was, Julie's car, parked across the street with the lights off, just sitting there. At first, I thought maybe she dropped someone off, but the car didn't move for over an hour. So I did what any emotionally well-adjusted person would do, ignored it and went to bed. But I couldn't sleep, just knowing she was out there, parked in the dark like some sad Lifetime movie villain, kept me tossing and turning. Around 1 a.m. I checked again. Still there. That's when my phone lit up with messages. Ethan, please. I know you're home. I just need 5 minutes. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Please answer. I made a horrible mistake. And then the one that hit me sideways. I've been sleeping in my car for 2 days. I have nowhere else to go. I walked to the window and yeah, there she was. Still in the Audi her dad gifted her for her 25th birthday. The one she once called entry-level, even though it cost more than I earned in 6 months. Reclined in the driver's seat, wrapped in some kind of blanket. I stood there for a long time, debating. Part of me wanted to let her sit there all night, let her marinate in the choices she made. But I'm not built like that. So I threw on sweats and a hoodie, went outside, and tapped on the window. The look on her face, man. It was like a mix of hope, fear, and absolute exhaustion. Her makeup was smudged, hair greasy and tied back, and she looked like she hadn't changed clothes in days. When she unlocked the door and stumbled out, I caught a whiff of that stale car smell. Fast food wrappers, stress, and shame. And she'd lost weight. A lot of it. Julie was always slim, but now she looked brittle. Tired in a way I'd never seen before. She started talking immediately. Voice cracking, crying, words tumbling over each other. Took me a second to piece it all together. Turns out, Derek hadn't just been cheating on her. He'd also been feeding her family's confidential info to their competitors. Once her dad caught wind, he fired Derek on the spot. Derek dumped Julie and vanished, along with some very sensitive data. And Julie, in all her brilliant judgment, had been helping Derek, covering for him, tweaking reports to make him look good, because she thought she was in love. When it all came crashing down, Harold finally snapped. No more job, no more money, no more paid apartment. She'd burned through couch surfing options with friends, most of whom were probably just social accessories. Anyway, her last roommate kicked her out for not paying rent. That's how she ended up here, in her car, outside my house. I asked why she didn't just go crawling back to the McMansion. And that's when she dropped the real bomb. Her dad's business? Under federal investigation. Derek apparently gave up evidence of financial misconduct. Cooking books, cutting corners, shady deals. Everything frozen. Assets seized. The whole perfect family image crumbling from the inside. The poetic justice was almost too much. I let her inside. Not because I was considering anything romantic, but because it was cold, and despite everything, I wasn't about to let someone freeze in their car. She stepped into my place and instantly started crying again. "It's so nice in here," she said between sobs. "It's not. Just a regular apartment. A couple second-hand chairs. A coffee table I refinished myself. And some houseplants I haven't managed to kill yet. But compared to car living, I guess it felt like a palace." We sat at the kitchen table. I made coffee. She told me everything, again. How her parents had staged the birthday ambush. How they convinced her that divorcing me was leveling up. How they thought Derek was this sleek, powerful upgrade. How she realized within weeks that it was all a lie. But she couldn't admit it, not to them, not to herself. So she doubled down. And then, with actual tears in her eyes, she said, "I thought you'd fight for me." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Not in a mean way, just at the absurdity of it. She tried to destroy me, humiliate me, throw me out like garbage, and she thought I'd chase her down with a bouquet and an apology? I asked what she wanted from me. She didn't even hesitate. She wanted to come back. Try again. Rebuild. She'd grown in 6 months, apparently. She had nowhere else to go, no job, no savings, no real plan. She suggested moving in. Just while we figure things out. I let her finish. Then I did something that even surprised me. I thanked her. Genuinely. I told her that, in some weird, twisted way, the divorce was the best thing she ever gave me. Because it freed me. From her family's judgment. From constantly trying to fit into some polished life that was never mine. These past 6 months were brutal, but for the first time since my early 20s, I've been living life on my own terms. She looked at me like I'd spoken another language. Cue more tears. More promises. More pleas. She said she'd do anything. She finally saw what she'd lost. I told her she could sleep on the couch for the night. It was late. She was clearly not okay. And I'm not a monster. But in the morning, she needed to leave, and whatever next steps she had in mind, they couldn't include me. The look on her face, like someone just told her gravity was optional now. Total disbelief. I don't think anyone's ever told Julie no in her entire life. Morning rolled around. I made breakfast. Because that's just what decent people do. While we were eating, her phone rang. She answered it on speaker without thinking, just a reflex, I guess. And suddenly, there he was, Harold. First time I'd heard his voice since the birthday ambush. But this wasn't the guy who toasted champagne to my downfall. The arrogance was gone. What I heard now was full-blown panic. His voice cracked as he explained how their business was falling apart, investors walking away, deals collapsing, and no one lining up to bail them out. Apparently Julie had told him I was doing well, and now he wanted to talk. About partnerships. About mutual benefit. I nearly spit my coffee across the table. The same man who once called me a liability in front of a room full of people was now asking for my help. Julie watched me and I could see it hit her, hope, embarrassment, the full realization of just how much had changed. I told Harold I wasn't interested in working with him, but I did know someone who might be able to help. Me as someone I'd been spending time with the past month. Just friends right now, but probably the healthiest connection I've had in years. She's smart, grounded, and happens to specialize in helping businesses clean up their messes and rebuild from scratch. Harold went quiet for a long beat before asking for her contact info. I gave it to him, ended the call, and turned to Julie. And that's when it really sunk in for her. I wasn't just not taking her back. I'd moved on. She left about an hour later with a small backpack and an Uber to her sister Erin's. Right before she walked out, she asked me if I'd ever forgive her. I told her I already had. Not for her, but for me. Anger's heavy. I didn't need to carry that anymore. I had a garage full of half-finished projects and a new roommate to think about. Speaking of which, everyone, meet Max. 3 legs, endless energy, and a serious sock theft problem. Adopted him last weekend. He's loud, sheds like crazy, and has absolutely no respect for personal space. Best decision I've made in years. So that's it. That's the end of the Julie arc. 6 months from having champagne poured over the ashes of my marriage to her sleeping in a car outside my house. Life's got a funny way of flipping the script. I don't know what happens to her next. I hope she figures things out. I hope her family finally learns something from all this. But me? I'm excited for what's ahead. For doing things without worrying if they look classy enough. For traveling without checking hotel stars. For building furniture without someone calling it junk. For letting a dog ruin my couch and still smiling about it. And for everyone who's followed this wild ride, thank you. For the advice, the perspective, the occasional reality checks. You have no idea how much that meant. Anyone else ever come out the other side of a total train wreck and realize it was exactly the thing you needed to finally be free? Because yes, same.